How can you start a career in dance? That's exactly what we're going to answer in this episode of the Zista podcast. Welcome to the Zista podcast, where we invite people from the industry and academia to answer questions raised by students within a specific subject area. In today's episode, we're going to be focusing on performing arts and more specifically on the field of dance. And joining me today is Sanjukta Wagh. Let me give you a small introduction for Sanjukta. So she is a performer, a choreographer, an educator, and a curator. I think the best way to actually describe her is that she's an interdisciplinary artist. So she's done a bit of theater, music, dance, drama, in a little bit of acting as well. And I think, she is a fantastic dancer. She's trained extensively under Rajashri Shirke in Kathak, and she learned Hindustani music under Pandit Murli Manohar Shukla. Now, back in 2005, Sanjukta co-founded Beej, and that's an interdisciplinary initiative, which brings creativity and improvisation to the fore with alternate methods of classical dance pedagogy and collaborative performance. Her work has won many awards. In fact, there's this. I was fortunate to attend Rage and Beyond, which won 2 national awards at Meta. And Sanjukta herself, she's picked up a lot of awards and scholarships, including the Vinod Doshi Award for her outstanding work in the field of performing arts and the British Council's Charles Wallace Scholarship, just to name a few. She has performed in India and abroad, and her work, her choreography has won her accolades and applause. So thank you once again for joining us, Sanjukta. I'm delighted that you are, here with us today.
A pleasure.
Thank you. So the question that we're trying to answer today is, how can you build a career in dance? And maybe we can go one step further and try and explore what are the career opportunities that students can explore, and whether it's really feasible to actually do something like that. But before we get there, maybe you can start by telling me a little bit about your journey.
I've been dancing for as long as I remember. I think I started as a child and I was put into twice weekly classes that parents usually put their kids to get them out of their way.
Okay.
I think more than me choosing dance, dance chose me.
Wow.
Something that I did and it became a part of life. I was one of the senior students of my guru.
Mm-hmm.
I helped in founding her institution. She's now one of the foremost leading artists of the country, and I helped in laying the paver blocks for her.
Fantastic.
And we traveled all over the country with her. So we got a lot of stage experience, a lot of choreographic experience, production experience, and
Right.
Young people setting up a show from scratch.
Right.
And then I branched out and decided to form my own initiative, taking from dance, music, theatre, literature. I've done my MA with English literature.
Correct. I was reading about that. Yes.
I don't think there's any dividing line between the arts. One feeds into the other. You dance a poem, you set it to music. Sorry. You become part of like a time cycle. You learn to ride the time cycle as part of your riyaz, as your daily practice. And we are all part of time cycle, right? The night and day and ebbs and flows and the cycles of the sun and the cycles of the moon. And so when you're consciously riding time, I think it just shifts something in your system. And you learn to play with rhythms, like rhythms arrive and rhythms leave. And so it just became a part of my larger consciousness. And so I took it to spaces which are familiar, like spaces within Kathak. And then I've taken collaborations with musicians from other genres and stories from other genres. Like I did this poem with an African-American author called Ntozake Shange.
Okay.
Which is called For Colored Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow is Enough. I was doing that as part of my MA course in literature. And then when I danced this character based in Los Angeles, and I played
Right.
her in Arab and danced her in Kathak, something just changed. Like the world just converges and becomes a smaller place, and your audience suddenly becomes universal. So, yeah, and then dance took me to London, where I decided to unlearn the classical form by embracing contemporary dance at the Laban Center. And it was terrifying, but it was also freeing because I had to leave behind everything I knew. I had to leave behind all my familiar technique. Here I was a professional Kathak dancer going to London who was suddenly, you know, at point zero in the contemporary dance class, and I had to unlearn habits that had been formed. And that opened doors to so many new pathways that now I see Kathak as a language that I speak in. And I can take it to different forums. We're invited to literature festivals, music festivals, theater festivals, contemporary festivals, classical dance festivals. So just the span of the dance has really opened. And also, I really enjoy teaching. I absolutely love talking to a young student and inspiring them to
Right.
dance. Sowing the seed, which is why I call it Beej, because every dancer has a different potential to flower in different ways. That's what I mean.
It's just so amazing to hear what you just said, because you've actually talked about how you've taken your dance form and your basic your art form to so many and extended it to so many different art forms, and there's like a merging, there's like something coming together, and the final expression is something which is an amalgamation of many different art forms coming together beautifully, and allowing you to also approach so many different kinds of avenues, festivals, stages, and performances. So that's really amazing. But let me ask you, going back, when you chose Kathak, there were other dance forms as well. So was there a specific reason that you chose Kathak, or how did you make that decision?
I think one was just the convenience of having a really, really good teacher close to the house.
Okay.
Second, when I consciously decided to pursue Kathak, because first your parents make the decision for you, right, when you're a child. But if you're an adult learner and you want to pursue a dance form, there's something about just the form that calls. And
Right.
Kathak is a midline, it has a central line where everything converges, and it is about exploring rhythms. And I think at heart, I'm a musician. So I absolutely love exploring time cycles and rhythms. So that drew me to Kathak. And also the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. Kathak has, of course, songs and dances of Krishna and Ram and goddesses, but it also has the Islamic Persian influence of the Mughals when they came to India, and it's a court dance form, and it flooded Mughal courts. So that idea, the Islamic and the Hindu becoming almost synchronous, it's called the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb.
Okay.
It's very particular to Kathak aesthetics. It has a Persian quality in its movements, which really I love. And I think it makes it unique. It also has a flamenco-esque kind of quality. It said that, Indian musicians went to Spain, of vocal music, and then developed into dance. So all those, I absolutely love Middle Eastern tunes and, those Spanish flamenco music, and all these
Correct.
genres also are really, really close to my heart. And I think Kathak allows for an assimilation of sorts. It's an assimilative form. In fact, many of Kathak's movements draw from ballet as well. Like on these movements, when
Yeah.
stretches, they've been incorporated from ballet. So it's a very assimilative form. It's not a puritanical kind of, this is the form and you can't go out of it. It moves into many alleys, which is why Kathak.
So if I hear you correctly, it's a form that lends itself to adaptation, improvisation, and creativity. And I think you as an artist have really pushed that envelope. You've explored so much. I think I've been fortunate to witness some of your performances as an audience, and I remember thinking that was just amazing. Simply because you so effortlessly have this way of conveying stuff through dance, and it's not just the dance; it's the end product that you're consuming, right? So it's a mix of the light, the set, the dance, the music, the expressions, the feelings that you get when you're watching it. So kudos to that, I would say. You've curated dance even for the Kalagoda Arts Festival, right? I mean, for several years, and you've been a teacher. So I want to ask you, when you look at young students, when you are implanting that beej, that seed to help a dancer realize their true potential, from your experience, can you tell us what traits do you typically see in students that actually do well? Or put another way, what traits do students need to succeed?
I think to answer your question, there are people who say that you need to look a certain way or you need to have a certain form, but I think A, B, C, D answers the question. Anybody can dance.
Okay.
Are born dancing. When you come out of the womb, you move, right? And
That's right.
your own way. So there are some people who move better to music. There are some people who are storytellers. I all walks of life. So to a young student, I would encourage everybody to learn a dance, whichever form appeals to you. It might be capoeira, it might be contemporary, it might be because it just instills in you that sense of innate rhythm, and it's about finding. There's a very inspiring dancer called Pina Bausch who said, "I'm interested in how you move. I'm interested in what moves you."
Wow.
So I go with that premise. So everyone has the ability to be moved by something. And maybe you don't have a musical ear, but you'll be moved by a visual. And now there are, forms are going to art galleries. There are silent performances. There's dance which is not dependent on music. Lots of times people say that music and dance are two things that go together. But in contemporary dance is a completely independent form, which is independent of music. So you have silent dance forms as well. So where it takes you, you will never know. But I think when you start exploring dance, and I would tell this to any student. In fact, I did this workshop with a business school students.
Okay. Okay.
And I made them all move. Boys and girls together who have not moved in years. But in some ways, feeling that flow in their body will get them to their next creative idea, or we help them start an initiative or walk an untrodden path, because to move from point A to point B, when you're doing it physically, there are so many different paths to move, right?
True.
There's the space of the dancer. It's body, space, and sound. And so I think anyone who familiarizes themselves with a dance form or a music form, it's always going to empower you. But to be a professional dancer, I would say riyaz. I would say dedicated immersion and practice in a form is absolutely essential. You need to throw yourself in to hours of practice. And if you have that, nothing can take away your success.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that point actually is very, very valid. It's something that holds true across different professions. If you meet anyone who's doing really well in their field, the one piece of advice that they can give is that most certainly put in the hours, don't shy away from that effort, that practice, to, developing your skills, developing the right mindset, developing endurance, resilience. And once you learn the foundations, then only then can you experiment, so say you've done so much stuff where Kathak is the foundation, but you added elements from your experience, your contemporary dance learning that you had in London. I mean, so don't you think that's really important, right? Having a foundation and then layering that maybe with other elements.
Absolutely. But I also think our generation had it easy. it was easy to focus because we didn't have this kind of an expanse, like today's kids are confused. Like if I was a kid today, I would be confused because you have so many options and so many reels and so many people telling you all these things. So it's very difficult to find a focus. But just the training of dance, like especially in the training of Kathak, one of the main things we have to do is stand upright and focus our eyes on one point. So it's just about your gaze being directed at a particular point. And that will help you, just for a while. For that 1 hour, let me focus and let me turn my gaze inward as well.
Yeah.
Such an outward gaze otherwise that it can be overwhelmed. And I'm not surprised that children today are overwhelmed, including my students. They're like, what do we do? But then you have to slowly, with the practice, with those hours of practice, you also gain that, tunnel vision focus that you sometimes need to just get a job done.
Right.
The job is just strengthening yourself, your inner self, because it's mental, physical, spiritual. It connects you. You know that when you dance, you're not alone. You have a buddy, which is your kinesphere, the space around you, who's always going to be with you wherever you go. So that's a very empowering feeling.
Wow.
Students of management experienced it. Like their eyes were shining at the end of the session.
I can imagine.
Sign of success.
I can imagine.
Then, more than your paycheck, if your eyes are shining every day when you go to work, that defines success in my eyes.
That's a very nice way to put it. Okay. Let me ask you, an important question about, in terms of careers. So, now that you're a professional dancer, what are some of the careers that you can explore? What can students do after choosing to specialize in a dance?
Yeah, I think if you're a dancer, you have a variety of options available. One is, of course, the traditional way you become a performer. You perform.
Right.
Second is, to which most people will know, you become a teacher.
Correct.
You dance, you open a class and you start your school. Third is, there are lots of these dance universities now. So you can affiliate yourself to various strands of dance. So there are degrees in performance making. There are degrees in a particular dance form. There are degrees in film and dance. There are degrees in theatre dance and music. And so you can, go into any of these fields and probably be associated with those universities. But also, when I learned dance in London, we studied anatomy.
Okay.
So there's a student of mine who's studying medicine and still continues her Kathak training. So there is, physiotherapy, just knowing the physicality of the body, like how a camera person needs to know the inside outs of the camera. Right?
Sure.
Dancer, if they know their body so well and they go into the medical profession, they can definitely, and I think more and more people are finding very, very streamlined warm-up for dancers like you have for sports people.
Okay.
Very, very streamlined Kathak and physiotherapy, or Bharatanatyam and physiotherapy, ballet and physiotherapy. I'm sure there are all these
Micro specializations that you can call it.
that are going to be
Right.
very, very soon. So that's one. Also management. Like one of my students is now in Leeds studying dance management.
Okay.
How to put up shows, how to manage companies. Production is a whole new area where you set up a website for dancers or from social media creatively. Because when you're actually a dancer, you will know how to film dance.
True.
Because you'll know how it feels. So you'll get that that feeling of the dance to the audience. So there are many, many different, and there's also dance film as another genre that's coming up. People are making dance films these days, which are artistic creations in their own right. Not just documenting a dance, but dance films. In fact, when I was in London, my flatmate was a filmmaker, and she did her final year project on me. So, and the whole thing became a dance film, which was actually showcased during the lockdown, strangely.
Wow.
When all performing arts had gone online, suddenly we were asked to, dig out all our filmed things and put it up. And so that film got featured as part of an international fest. So you never know where your specialization might be. Also, there's research. There's dance academic research. So there is dance.
Interesting.
There is dance anthropology. People are doing ethnographic studies in dance. So dance and community. So dance in old age homes. There are people performing in like children's cancer hospitals and things like that. Interventions with performing arts. I think that's very, very necessary. To have dance in different spaces instead of just stages like a Prithvi and an NCP and an auditorium. It should move out of auditoriums and on to different space where more people can access it. Which is so
Interesting. It's so interesting to hear that how dance is being used as as a medium to cure people, as a medium to alleviate pain, to even bring joy. Because so many people in old age homes are just suffering from loneliness. They're just feeling lonely, and that time of the day when they can move around, mingle with their friends who may otherwise be grumpy. It gives them a chance to just enjoy and smile, and that's so amazing. Yeah.
In fact, I have a friend who does work with Alzheimer's patients with dance.
Okay.
There's a genre called dance movement therapy. Yeah, one of my students is in the US. She's studying dance and drama therapy. There's also
Okay.
movement therapy. So that's another thing. Like psychology and dance is a huge option to also. It depends on where you want to specialize and where you see yourself, helping the world.
So I think to summarize, what you're really saying is there is so much you can do, and I'll tell you honestly, the kind of topics that you've touched on today, just in the course of the stuff that you have seen, what you've seen your students do, I think it's really amazing because you brought out so many different avenues that dancers can actually explore. And if you're passionate about dance, if it's something that you felt like I want to make a career in this, the good news is that you can actually seek out one of these combinations, which is dance and film, or dance and psychology, or dance and research, for example, if someone is fond of that. And it's just amazing to learn about this. I really want to thank you for highlighting this so effectively.
Yeah, in fact, we did a very interesting project with my students on Kathak history.
Okay.
Dancing it. Instead of reading about history, I said, become the temple dancer. Become the dancer in the court and see how it feels in your body to move back in time and inhabit all those phases of history. And then one of my students asked the most amazing question. She comes and asks me, Didi, where does Kathak history end? And I said, it doesn't end. You're making it right now in your dancing body. As you're standing here in front of me, what you do is going to be Kathak history next. So it really, it's about the now. It's about how you improvise. You have this, you have all these other fields that you have studied. How you bring them together is totally up to you. In fact, I have a physicist friend with whom I did a project on dance and science. So we did like a thing on the Pascal's triangle. We brought it to life, and we were looking at binary numbers and how, the dancers' bodies become those binary numbers, and we actually performed that whole equation.
Wow.
To see, so it's crazy where dance can be. In fact, in CERN in Switzerland, which is one of the biggest scientists up where they're doing all the experiments, there is a Nataraj, like a huge Nataraj, a dancing statue of the Nataraj.
It's amazing. Awesome. I think it's come full circle. And, as I was saying, I think I've learned so much. It was such an amazing discussion. Thank you once again, Sanjukta, for making time in your day and your schedule to talk to students. Yeah, to talk to students about these different options that they can actually explore. And I think I'm walking away from this discussion a lot richer in terms of what you can do in the field of dance. So thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Lovely being here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I certainly did. And I'd encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd like to keep getting videos like this. If you're into audio podcasts, you can certainly follow the Zista podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Till we meet next, I'd say stay curious.